Welcome back to another episode of Flutter Original. My name is Majid, and I'll be hosting another show of Flutter Original with uh, Taylor, a developer advocate at Supabase. If you are following me for some time, or if you are coming to this channel for the first time, you will realize, or you already know, that I introduced a lot of alternatives for Firebase to build your application, your backend application for your Flutter mobile app. And one of those alternatives was Supabase, perhaps one of my favorite too. And I had a chance to invite my amazing friend Taylor to talk about Supabase. And together today, we're going to pair program and build an application with Flutter and Supabase as a backend. So let me welcome Taylor. Hi, Taylor. How are you?
Hey, Mased, how are you doing? I'm doing great.
Perfect. So, will you probably introduce yourself and tell us what you do in Supabase and what is Supabase for those who
Oh,
really
yeah,
don't know Supabase?
for sure. Yeah, again, I'm Tyler and I work at Supbase as a DevRel, and I mainly focus on the Flutter side of things. Now, Supabase, I'm sharing my screen right now. Hopefully, you can see it. Is a open source Firebase alternative is the best way to describe it. So, Firebase has these features like auth and database and storage and functions. Well, here at Supabase, we have all of that, and the main difference between Firebase and Supabase is that Supabase uses Postgres database instead of NoSQL database is the database. So those who are used to using SQL can just start using SQL when they start using Supabase. So that's probably why people um, like it a lot. And another nice thing about it is that it's open source. So if you want to like host it by yourself, you can. There's no vendor lock-in, which is another advantage that people find in Supabase. But yeah, I'm really excited to live coding some apps using Supabase and Flutter today.
Oh, that's nice. But Taylor, let me ask you a few questions, which
Yep.
in previously in my Twitter space and other channels, people ask me about Supabase. The first thing is that then why PostgreSQL? Like why this database? And how does it
Right.
work? Is it like a really relational database approach, or did you have did you make some kind of like let's say abstraction on top of this database and made it like a way that a NoSQL database works?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so why Postgres? Postgres database has been around for over several few decades, at least 20 some years, and it's been battle tested. It is the database behind some of the world's largest services out there. So you could never go wrong by choosing Postgres. It's just been around for so long, and a lot of the developers like it. So that's the reason why we went with Postgres. And we actually do provide like the raw Postgres itself. So one of the core themes here at Supabase is that we want to empower developers, leverage and enable them to leverage the power of Postgres. So we believe in Postgres a lot because Postgres is, again, a very powerful database. And we want to provide developers an easy way to access Postgres, but we don't want to provide any abstraction on top of that. We want the developers to experience the full power of Postgres. So yeah, once you sign up with Supabase, if you go to supabase.com and you can get up to two free databases, um, you get an actual full Postgres database without any abstractions.
Well, that's very nice. Um, does this database comes with like a relational approach, or is it more of
Right.
like a NoSQL approach?
Yeah, so Postgres database is a relational database. So, yep, you can do joins and where clause and group by and count and all those good stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. So another question that I got is about, like you mentioned, you have authentication as well, and functions. How does those work? Like functioning. Let's take function as an example and talk about it.
Mhm.
Can I write in any language and write my or run my function, or is just tied to one particular language, for example?
Yeah, at the moment, Supabase, we call it its functions, is using Dino deploy behind the scenes. So we are limited to using only TypeScript because Dino is powered by TypeScript. But we are exploring other options to bring more support for other languages as well.
But that's very good news. Another question is regarding the authentication. So do you support everything out of the box? Like I get um, all the standard OAuth and flow and everything that is related to that, or is something else? And how about the third party vendors, or like what do we call it, federated approach? Logging.
Yep. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so we have a pretty wide range of choices when it comes to authentication. We support, typical email and password authentication. We support phone number authentication. We of course support OAuth logins, Google, GitHub, Facebook, you name it. We actually, I think, support more OAuth provider than Firebase. We have like Discord logins, Slack login as well, I think. So yeah, we have a lot. And yeah, we're always authentication is our key feature, and we're always trying to improve and bring in more features as well. I think multi-factor authentication has been a huge request. We're moving forward slowly in that space as well. And um, yeah, lot of great features coming to
Sounds good.
authentication. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Um, you mentioned about hosting Supabase in our own infrastructure. Will
Mhm.
you a little bit elaborate on that? Like, first of all, you have a cloud version of Supabase, right? I really don't need to do anything. I just can come to your website, sign up, and I have a Supabase backend, right?
Exactly.
That's one option. Another option is I can run it in my own infrastructure, like any cloud, any particular, infrastructure that I want to run Supabase. But how does that work? Is it like Docker base, or how hard is to run that? How is the update gonna work regarding Supabase? So will you explain
Right.
about that too?
Yeah, great question. It is Docker based, and we do provide a nice guide for self-hosting. Self-hosting. So yeah, there you go. You can just Google Supabase self-hosting, and you get a full guide on how you can get started with self-hosting a Supabase instance on your server. In terms of like upgrading, when you use the our version of Supabase, obviously we're gonna take care of upgrading and stuff. But if you go with the self-hosting route, you're in charge of like upgrading the versions itself. So it won't auto upgrade. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. People, if they want stability, they want to upgrade. They don't want to upgrade their instance. Whereas some people might prefer to always use the latest version. So with self-hosting, you get full control over any configurations around that sort of stuff.
All right, Taylor, that is awesome. Let's move on and
Mhm.
tell us about Flutter and Supabase in this case. You are
Oh
expert
yeah.
in Flutter and Supabase both, and you're working on both. So tell us what we can do with that and what is new and everything that you want to share with us, and then we can maybe jump into building something together.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So yeah, in terms of Flutter and Supabase, Flutter has SDKs for all those features that we talked about earlier, functions, auth, REST API, real-time, and everything. And I actually happen to be the maintainer of the Flutter library along with a few other community members. And we just recently released a 1.0 version of Supabase Flutter, which is super exciting. We made it so much easier to get started with Flutter and Supabase. There's a lot of developer experience improvements, and I think we made code more simpler in a lot of ways. So it's never been easier to get started with Flutter and Supabase.
Well, that's good. Then, are you ready to show us how we can
Yeah,
use
let's do
Supabase with
it.
Flutter?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do it then.
So yeah, I believe we are today using zapp.run to develop
Oh,
our
that's
Flutter
that's my
application.
favorite. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Do you wanna talk about Zap a little bit? Or no, not really?
Yeah, well, I think we should talk about Zap. So for
Okay.
those who really doesn't know Zap, Zap is a sandbox for building Flutter application. Particularly good for actually these kind of things that we're doing, like demonstrating, playing around with
Yeah.
something for authors, for documentation, and these type of use cases. So in fact, that's the reason I think we chose Zap right now to build something quickly to show everyone how it works. And then we can share the link, and I will share it in the comment below. So you can click and then open it up and see how we have built this application without spinning up anything in your computer. Everything will be in the browser. So let's continue, Taylor.
Yeah, let's do it. So the way to get started with Flutter and Supabase is you can Google Supabase Flutter and get to this pub dev page. We have a Flutter SDK, so you can just copy this one nice 1.0 version of Supabase Flutter, and then let's add it to our pubspec. Sorry, I keep on hitting save. Pubspec YAML, and let's run pubget. Okay, now let's take a look at what we need to do in order to get started. And the first step is to initialize Supabase. I believe this step is fairly similar to how Firebase does it. So we can run this initialization command in our main function, kind of like this. And
Hmm.
we also need to make this main function async. And let's import Supabase if it will allow us. Okay, great, great. Now, we don't need these two configuration, but the main configuration that I want to highlight here is this URL and anon key. These two information are specific to our Supabase instance, and I have spin up a Supabase instance just for this project today. The way you can get here is you can go to supabase.com, hit the sign up or sign in button at the top right, and then you can sign in with your GitHub account, and in no time you'll get here. Now, this is a brand new project, and once you have a brand new project, you can go to the settings page and go to the API. Now here you can obtain the Supabase URL for this particular project. We can copy and paste that right here, and we can get the anon key. Now, it's okay to expose these informations because Supabase has this mechanism of protecting your database from malicious attacks if you configure it properly. So, yeah, these keys are not a server-side key. These keys are meant to be exposed to the clients. Okay, great. Now we have initialized our Supabase instance. We should be able to access any information in our database. So let's create some tables in our Supabase
A question here,
page.
Taylor. Can I
Yep.
pause you for a second? Is
Hmm.
this initialization only for database or for actually all the features of Supabase?
Yeah, that is for all the features of Supabase.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. Okay, let's create a table. Now, what kind of apps should we create today? Is there a particular kind of app that you
Well,
wanna work on? Chat, maybe?
maybe a chat.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so we can
So
create a
a quick chat.
yeah, okay. Let's create a messages table. Messages table. We can add a description if we want to. Now, here's nice thing about Supabase is that you can create tables without not any knowledge of SQL. So right off the bat,
I
we
see.
provide like ID primary keys and created that field. We can add more columns. So we can, let's add a content field with type text. So this will hold the message content. And yeah, I think that's good enough to get started. So once we create this table,
I see two interesting things here before it goes. Enable
yep.
real time.
Mm,
So what does it do exactly here?
great point. And thank you for actually finding that one. I meant to tick that one off. But by default, Supabase does not provide real-time feature for all the tables that's created within the Supabase project. You have to
I see.
explicitly enable it table by table. This is to save some server resources. But yeah, since this is a real-time chat app we're working on, let's enable real-time for this particular tables that we just created. And we could have ticked that checkbox, so we can always go to the database and go
Mhm.
to replication. And here we can enable uh, real-time by checking this uh, yeah, switch. Okay, so now that we have a messages table, we can interact with this table. So let's try to insert a data into this table. Let's see. Okay, I guess we have a floating action button. Okay, since we already have a on press callback here, I'm just going to make this uh like a insert button. So the
Mhm.
way we can do is we can call supabase.instance.client. So this is how we access to
I
the
see.
Supabase client. And now you can see all the different methods. We have auth, we have functions, real time, storage. And the easiest way to access the database is by this from method. So from method takes a table name. So in our case, I believe we call it messages. Now, on this table, we can do different things. We can select, we can get stream. This is how you get real-time data. We can
Mm.
update, insert, different things. But we are interested in insert today. So let's do that. And all we have to do is we just have to pass a map to this function. So we had a content field, and let's say a test message. Okay. Now, if you remember it from earlier, we also had an ID column as well as a created at column. Now, these two columns are by default set as it will be automatically set on the server side, so we don't have to pass those informations from our client applications. All we need to pass is this content object, and hopefully it will work. So let me press this. Okay, now it threw something. Great.
I think that's fine. You just need to play again.
Okay,
Um,
play again is
just
in this button.
yep. There we
Okay,
go. Let's do that, and hopefully then it should build this application, and
nice.
we should see that. Oh, I see that actually we haven't forked the original Flutter template, so it will also fork these applications. Oh yeah, the URL has changed right now on the top.
Okay, is that
The
gonna be a
build is
problem?
success.
Okay.
No, it's not a
Oh,
problem. So later we can share that link. See that Supabase is initialized. That's good messaging. No access token
okay.
detected. I'm not really sure what it is, but there you go. So you have the
Yep.
button.
It just means that we haven't logged in yet. Okay, so I clicked it. Let's see if we see any data in our database. I just pressed this refresh button right here, and there you go. We see the test message
There
that
you
we
go.
inserted from our client. So that wasn't too bad, right? That was, I think, pretty quick. And just like that, we got started with the actual chat application. Now, I guess all we need at this point is some nice UI and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. We can skip that part. So let's
Yeah,
stick to the functionality more.
yeah.
But that's very
Okay.
nice so
Yeah.
far. What else we can do? Can we just show the message back to the screen? Maybe.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So let me first convert this to a stateful widget. And okay, let's show a list of chats in this body. So we're gonna use a stream, okay, stream builder.
But
And
we can use the stream builder because you enabled the real-time functionality on the database on this particular, database
yep, yep,
table. Okay,
yep,
sounds good.
exactly, exactly. And I always like to
If
persist
not,
my
then how would that work? Like, will you work with the feature builder, or still you can use a stream if you don't
yeah,
enable real time?
yeah, if you don't enable real time, you can always use the feature builder. So I enable real time so that we can stream the real time data in from our tables, but that's not a requirement. You can always just use the REST API and stick with I guess not using the real time
No, no,
capability of
yeah.
Supabase, but
Okay.
just handling one data at a time. But
Yeah,
since
sounds
we're
good.
working on a real-time messaging app, I think it's awesome to uh, use a stream builder to do that. So right now I'm creating a stream from that messages table that we created earlier, and now we have a handy stream method. Now the stream method takes a primary key as an argument, so we can. This is to deduplicate some of the updates or delete operations. We had set a ID column as the primary key for that table, so that's what we want to pass here. And that is actually it. We have this messages stream. We can pass it to our stream builder. And now let's actually create the builder. So the quick and dirty way to that I use is
Yeah,
this
let's
if
do that quick and dirty
snapshot
there.
is connection state is not connection state active, then return connection set center child circular progress indicator. Okay, center. Right, great. Now if we do have a data, then we want to get the data messages is snapshot dot data. Now this is going to be in type list of map. So it will be list of map of string dynamic.
I see.
Now we can just iterate over this by returning a list view dot builder. And okay, messages dot length. Let's just okay, quick and dirty development. I love it. Okay, item builder is okay. Let's return a list tile. List
Yeah,
tile and give pass the title. Uh, pass the message content as the title. So messages of index and I believe it's content. Okay. Hopefully, if I did everything correctly, we will see some messages pop up at the top of this app.
okay,
So
let's see.
again, yeah. Okay. So what is going on? Let's see.
Expect the value of widget, but
Oh,
oh,
right.
okay.
Because, yeah, classic.
it must, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
So close. Okay, just to go over what I did here while it's compiling is I created this messages stream, which contains the stream of data from our messages table. And the stream method is converting that to a stream. And then we return basically a list view widget with those data. And as you can see, we have this test message. Now, if I press this button again, hopefully we see another one pop up and another one pop up. Okay, great. It
Well,
looks
that's
like
very
it's
nice.
working.
Yeah, very nice
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So, um, but that's interesting. So the real-time feature is really working, and I believe like it works not only for insert but also update as well as delete, and
Yep,
all the other CRUD operation. Let's say very
exactly.
nice. But what else we can show right now? You can show us. I mean,
Yeah,
generally,
let's see.
it's interesting to have maybe an authentication, but I
Let's do
don't know
that.
how difficult would be. Let's do it if we can. So it's nice
Okay,
because then usually you don't have like an open chat, right? You need some sort of
sure.
like authenticated user to send some messages.
Yep, yep. Okay, let's do that. So let's start by adding a user ID column to our messages table so that we can know who submitted what message. So we go back to the Supabase table editor and we can add a column by pressing this new column. And then we can create a user ID column. Now, here is a new concept if you're not too familiar with SQL or Postgres.
Mhm.
We have this thing called foreign key relation where we can um, enforce that this user ID column uh, exists in another table within our database. So just like how Firebase provides that authentication server, we have when you create a new Supabase instance with us, we provide this users table to manage all the authentication related operations. So we can set a foreign key relations to this users table and make sure that user ID is always equal to the ID column of this users table. Now we can hit save and I believe it should not be null, and we can hit save. And user ID relation message content. Okay, right. Okay, let's just quick and dirty development. This is not the proper way of doing it, but it's okay. Okay, so now we got a new user ID column right here. What this represents is a user of this app, and if we go to this authentication tab of Supabase, we have this user section, and right now we don't have any users. We haven't signed up any users yet, so we don't see anybody. But once
Yeah.
we sign someone up, we see them pop up right in here. So let's actually
But by the way,
show it.
let's take a quick moment and explain
Mhm.
about the null problem here, because
Sure.
you we had a table before which we didn't have a column any relationship between that particular column to any other table which does not have any user yet, right? Therefore
Yep.
all the rows 1 2 3 will get a null, and that was the error. So
Yep.
that's the reason. So these kind of things usually is done by programming. You do some kind of migration and try to figure out these kind of things. But at this point, because you added something before you add a user, then the user ID for those previous rows are null. I think for those who really don't have the SQL knowledge, we should explain why that was the problem.
Yeah, thank you so much, Majid. Yeah, and that's a nice thing about SQL databases, right? You know for sure whether a certain column has a value or not, and you know the type of those
Absolutely.
that column. Whereas in NoSQL database, you lose that schema basically. There could be any kind of column with any kind of type, or it could be null. You don't know. But in this particular scenario, we know if it's null, or if it's string, or something else, and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So going back to authentication, let's try to sign up a user. And once again, I'm just going to use this floating action button just because that is right there available for me to press. So the way we can do authentication is we can get a response back from our signup call. So supabase.instance.client as usual is the way to access our Supabase instance. And then we have this auth. And then within this auth, we have different methods. Sign in with password, sign in with OTP, one-time password, sign in with OAuth, different things. But let's just use
Oh,
a
that's
sign
interesting.
in.
Can I ask you a question quickly? Sign
Yeah,
in with OTP. Was it? Is it working with email or SMS?
it works both ways actually. You can pass a
Oh,
phone
that's good.
number or email address. Yeah. Some people call it magic link when it's used with emails. It's and sometimes it's called passwordless sign in. There's, I guess it has a lot of names, but yeah, that's a pretty easy way to get started with logging into your Supabase account. But let's go with sign in with password or sign up is what we want because we are signing up a new user here. And sign up takes a email or a phone number. And I'm just gonna put some sample email and a password. Now I'm gonna put some very secure password right here. Now that is it. That's how you can sign up a user. So let me hit run again and
By the way, for those who are watching from now, we're actually trying to get the authentication of Supabase to work, and we try to sign up like manually. So you should not do that. The way that it works, you should have like a form, email input, and password input, and capture those values, and then pass it down to this function. We're just trying to add one user quickly to see how it works.
yeah, great point. Yeah. This is not you what you want to do in the production app, but yeah, okay. It looks like we have compiled out app. Let's press this button and see if we have a user created in this users table. Okay, so by default, we see that it's waiting for verification. And this is because Supabase is built secure by default. And what's happening is once a user signs up using their email address, a verification email is sent to their account, and they need to click the link in order to complete the sign up process. Now, this is great and nice and secure, but for today's case, where we just want to create something quick and dirty, um, this gets in our way. So let's disable this by going to the settings of auth, and then we can scroll down to the email section, and we can disable confirm email and hit save. Now let's sign up using another email address. Okay, I'm just gonna call it sample2. And once we run this one, it should allow us to just create a nice user without verifying their email address. Okay, so we can see some console logs. We can see an ID of the user. We can see some metadata, provider, email, that sort of stuff. So it looks like sign up was successful, and we can confirm that in our users table just like that. Nice verified user has been created. Now we can insert a new chat in this app by taking this user's information and inserting it to our messages table. So I'm just going to comment this sign up flow right now for now and bring this insertion back. So if you remember, this is inserting a new role in our Flutter chat app, and I'm just gonna change the content to authenticated message, and let's insert a user ID for that user. And this is going to be, we need a user object right here. So let's get that. We can do that by Supabase instance client dot current user. Okay, great. So we can access the user's ID by user.id, and this exclamation mark is there because user could be null if they're not signed in, and since we just know that they're signed in, I'm just gonna put it there.
Okay, so I have a question here. Oh, at least let's
Hmm.
clarify that why you use exclamation mark here because you signed up already. So then probably user stays sign in, right? So when
Yep.
you access now current user, so then Supabase know that you already signed in, and so you have the user object. That's the case, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep, but okay, I'm seeing no access token, which makes me think that it's going to give me an error once I do this or not. Okay. Hmm. I was thinking,
Or well,
you know, I was
it probably actually add null because we said the user ID is null. Or no, actually, you got
except
that. Actually,
it worked. Okay, great. I'm gonna have to look into that logging bit, but yeah, okay, great, it's working. So yeah, we were able to sign up a user using the sign up function of Supabase auth, and then we were able to insert a new message into our messages table, and you can see their user ID being populated in our table. And I missed it, but our message is not being loaded. So um okay, I guess we can look into that. But okay. So it looks like we have a nice authenticated messages coming in. Now, let's try to do this. Let's put some authorization in place. So right now we have 3 messages without user ID and 1 message with that user's user ID, right? What if we only wanted every user to be able to load their own message? Doesn't really work out if it's a messaging app, but let's say it's like a to-do list app or something like that. Then it kind of makes sense for every user to only be able to access their own data, right?
yeah.
Now, the way we can do that using Supabase is through a thing called role level security or role level policies. The way we can enable that is by going to the auth settings and policies. So, what is role level security? Role level security is a feature of Postgres database. So, this is not something Supabase created. This is a feature of Postgres, and it's a way to um, limit what user can access which data. And what you can hear, what you can see here is it says row level security is disabled. This is the default settings, but we can enable it by pressing this enable RLS button. And what this does is by default, it shuts out every single request coming into this messages table. So if we go back and refresh this page again, we shouldn't see any of these messages. Now,
Okay.
the way role of security works then is that we can define a certain condition where a certain user can access certain data. And as you can see, we can no longer see any of the text that we were seeing earlier. So we can go back and define a policy. Policy is what how we define who can access what data. So at Supabase, we provide you with some nice templates to get started with, or we can start from scratch. Let's actually start from scratch, and this is not working out with the zoom in. Okay, let me zoom out a bit, and we can give policy a name. So users, something like users can access their old messages. Okay, great. Now, in this policy, what do we want to allow? Do we want to allow select, insert, update, delete, or all? I like to start one by one, so let's just enable select for now. We can apply multiple policies on a single table. So we will have one policy for select, and then a different policy for insert, and then different policy for update and delete, and so on. Now, we can skip target rows for now, but this using expression, this is where all the magic happens. So we write SQL right here to that'll return a boolean of whether this user can access this particular row or not. So we have access to all the row data um, of this messages table. Like for example, we had that user ID column, right? We can access a certain user ID column of a particular row in our table. Now we want to grant access to this row if their user ID, their authenticated user ID is equal to the user ID column of this row. And the way we can do that is we provide a nice auth.uid function. So this particular function is something that we provide at Supabase, and it's just a way to access the authenticated user's user ID. So just like that, that's all we need to do, and we can hit review. And this will give us the full SQL that will be run behind the scenes to enable this particular role level security. And this is something I like to highlight about Supabase is that Supabase provides an easy way to get started with Postgres, and no knowledge of SQL whatsoever is required for you to get started. But then it gives you these hints of different Postgres features in different places within the dashboard. So you can start to learn Postgres, start to learn SQL, and level up as a developer. So once everything looks good, we can hit save policy, and that saved these role level security policy. Now, once we go back to the app and refresh this app again, we should only see that one row that had our user ID in it, hopefully. Okay, great. So
There you
we
go.
see this one message, right? Authenticated message.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can maybe go on and create even more stuff, but time is flying. I mean, we already are recording like around 40
Time.
minutes ish, or even like around that.
Yeah, time
And
is flying.
I think we need to uh, try to wrap it up. I have
Yep.
two questions for you. Let's
Sure.
start with the first one.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to implement one of the features that you like and it's fast to implement to show off what this SDK and also Supabase can do in Flutter, what would be that one? And can we do that right now? Apart from
One feature to show
database
off.
and authentication.
Let's see. Something to show off quickly, huh? So, I'm not gonna be able to like show off within this particular interface because it actually requires two screens to be connected to the same database instance simultaneously. But let me show you something. Multiplayer.dev is a showcase website for our new real-time features that we introduced.
Hmm.
What this does is we can open two of these websites simultaneously, and you notice this right-hand side. Um, it's we call it presence feature, and you can easily implement this feature where whether or not there's other users actually viewing a particular page or doing some particular action uh, in real time somewhere else. So okay, this is gonna. Can you actually access this website? It's more
I
exciting
can
when there's multiple people
actually, yeah.
doing it. So okay, in this multiplayer feature, there's two features that was introduced in our new real-time multiplayer edition. So there's presence, which is essentially knowing if there's other people viewing it. And then this is broadcast. So as you can see, you see his cursor right here moving around, right? And yeah, that's using our broadcast feature. Now, broadcast feature is very interesting, and it might be my favorite. The way it works is until this feature came along, every um, real-time data had to go through the database, which is somewhat expensive. If you're trying to share like cursor position with other people, then that's going to be like multiple times, multiple writes per second on the database, and you don't want to have like 100 people doing that on your database or right. This broadcast feature allows us to share real-time data without going through the database. So it's more efficient, and it's good to share small piece of data rapidly with other connected clients. So this particular demo, this multiplayer.dev website, is using the web version of this real-time, but we also have this feature enabled in Flutter, so we can create multiplayer games, or I think the use case is limitless.
Well, that was very nice, and I have to admit that the latency was very impressive. It's pretty
Yeah,
fast,
thank you.
and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
very
latency.
nice.
It's usually around
Cool.
like 20 milliseconds or
I'm
so.
Wow, I've seen it
Yeah.
most of the time under 100 millisecond, which is very
Yeah,
impressive.
maybe it's
Even
my
two, three
internet or
hundred
something.
millisecond is
Uh, hopefully. Okay. Yeah,
still
maybe.
very good, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But last question, and let's
Hmm.
wrap it up. If you want to name, I know that you said about this feature, and we can use it also in Flutter. I immediately can think about several use cases for this real time, feature, which is very nice. And what is your favorite feature? Is it this one or anything else in Supabase? Yes. What is your favorite feature, especially because you are like, let's say, the maintainer of the SDK for Flutter, right?
Hmm.
The one
Hmm.
that is
Hmm.
also very like nice for you doing that in Flutter.
It's a good question. Let's see. My favorite feature within the Flutter SDK. This real-time broadcast feature is pretty awesome. Um, but I have to say it's the stream feature that I showcased today. It's a stream feature is actually not provided in the JavaScript SDK. It's something that we implemented only for Flutter SDK. Because the stream is such a natural way to interact with real time data within the Flutter ecosystems that we said that it makes sense to introduce it. What they have instead in JavaScript world is they only have callbacks for real time data. So every single new data is a callback, and you have to manage your own state locally and process the data locally and everything. Whereas with the stream that we just went over today, right here, yeah, it
That's
gives
very
you
cool.
a very quick and easy way to get started with real time data using Supabase. So I have to say that's my favorite feature.
Cool. Thank you very much, Taylor. So for
Yeah.
last question of today, tell us anything that you want to share for the Supabase SDK and for Flutter and the future, or any upcoming feature that you can reveal right now or share. So tell us anything to wrap up this, conversation right now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the power of Supabase is the fact that it's open source, meaning that anybody can view the source code and anybody can contribute to um, anything Supabase related. We open source everything, the real time engine, authentication, of course, the Flutter SDK as well. So if anything's not working out for you, please don't hesitate to open an issue in our GitHub repo, and we'll happily take a look at it. And if you think you have a great idea of making anything better in the Flutter SDK, or anything Supabase related, feel free to leave a comment in the issues or open a pull request. We're always very welcome for those contributions. And we actually just hit 500 contributors in our main Supabase repository, and we're always growing our open source community. So if you're interested in open source, I think Supabase is a great way to get started in it. So yeah, come join the fun.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Taylor, for joining to this show. Promise me to come back again and maybe show off some
Yeah,
of the more advanced feature later. So what we can do with Supabase, and especially if you are introducing new features and upgrading this SDK to newer version, you're always welcome to come back and show us what you've done. Thank you very much, Taylor,
thank you so
and
much
thank
for
you
having me.
everyone for watching this show. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone,
everyone.
for watching this show and have a good day, night, wherever you are. Bye.
Bye bye.